Hello, my name is Debra, and I'm a leader with the Sisterhood of the Rose Planetary Network. Today I again have the pleasure to speak with Cobra, who is the chief intel provider for the Resistance Movement, where he offers important planetary and galactic information at his blog, 2012portal.blogspot.com. Welcome, Cobra, and thank you for doing this interview.
Thank you for the invitation, and hello everybody.
Yes, today we are speaking primarily about a very popular topic in the United States and around the world, the upcoming total solar eclipse that takes place in the United States on Monday, April 8th. And to take advantage of this powerful moment, there will be a 20-minute synchronized meditation taking place at the peak of the eclipse at 6:18 p.m. UTC, which is 2:18 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. So, Cobra, to start, can you please explain why is an eclipse a powerful time to do a large synchronized meditation? Like, what is the astrological significance of an eclipse and the resulting energy it creates?
Okay, all eclipses, especially solar eclipses, are very powerful moments. And the power of that moment is that an eclipse, solar eclipse especially, creates a doorway through which you can amplify your free will. So all free will decisions made at the moment of a total solar eclipse are far more powerful, and focused intent at that moment is extremely powerful. So, having a mass meditation at the moment of a solar eclipse is magnified many times. And the path of totality will go through the United States, so this particular eclipse will be especially important for the United States.
Yes. I mean, you've said that there are two events in 2024 that will have the most impact on the future of the U.S. One is this April 8th solar eclipse, and the other is the presidential election on November 5th. So how is it that this eclipse presents the opportunity for a moment of decision for U.S. citizens to decide what our future will be? What's the purpose of doing this mass meditation specifically for the United States during this eclipse?
Okay, this eclipse is an opportunity for a critical mass of people within the United States to decide the optimal future for that country. So to visualize, and invoke, and start manifesting the optimal future for United States, it's actually to begin a cycle of manifestation of that optimal future. So this is the opportunity that this eclipse gives to the citizens of the United States.
And as you mentioned, the eclipse is an opportunity to use our free will, and so that's what we would be doing at this point, correct?
Yes.
And we understand that the critical mass, the goal is to have 30,000 U.S. citizens doing the meditation. Why is it important that these people are U.S. citizens?
It is because it is the future of this country to be decided, and only people who are residents of the United States, or I would say rather U.S. citizens, are the ones who are most empowered and are the right people to make that decision.
Okay, will people from other countries also doing the meditation help support the impact of this?
Yes, of course. People from other countries will also be doing this meditation and they can support, but the main focus and main decision need to be made by people from the U.S.
Okay, good. What effect will reaching this critical mass of 30,000 have on the U.S., and how will it affect the overall situation? Will it put us on a positive timeline moving forward?
Okay, if we reach a critical mass of 30,000 people meditating, this will begin a new cycle of manifestation through which a more positive future will start manifesting, and this will start shifting the timeline for the United States into a more positive direction from that moment onward.
Okay, so we definitely want to reach critical mass, so we're encouraging everyone to participate as well as share as much as you can with other people so that we can reach that critical mass of 30,000 people on April 8th. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the United States. One veiled aspect is the role that Saint Germain played in the creation of the United States and in the development of the Constitution. During this meditation, we will be invoking him to assist us in this transition. Now, many people are not aware of Saint Germain. They may know of his incarnation as Comte de Saint Germain in the 1700s, where he received much notoriety in European high society, but they may not be aware of him as an ascended master, nor of the important role that he played in creating the United States. Would you share information about Saint Germain's role in this? And is it true that he, together with Benjamin Franklin, created the Constitution?
Okay, in the 18th century, he was quite active in France and there was a quite strong connection between France and the United States, and there was a lot of support in French high society for the creation of independent United States. And there were some people who were positioned in French Masonic lodges at that time. Some of them were quite influential also in the creation of the United States and in the creation of the Constitution. And one of them was Benjamin Franklin, who was a member of quite an important French Masonic lodge, and he had contact with Saint Germain. Saint Germain actually appeared once or twice in the formation period of the United States on the physical plane, and he gave inspiration for the creation of the Constitution and for the creation of the Declaration of Independence. He knew that the United States as a country has great potential. And I will be speaking about it later during this interview.
Okay, good. Yes. I mean, Saint Germain has stated that America is the jewel of my heart and that he has a very special fondness for America. Why is this? I mean, what's so important about the United States?
The United States as an independent country is actually a project, a part of the project of Saint Germain called the New Atlantis. His purpose was to recreate the civilization of light that existed on this planet in the time of old Atlantis tens of thousands of years ago. And his mission was, and still is, to recreate that civilization of light. And as the United States was formed as an independent country, it was a huge potential to bring liberty and freedom to its population, and in that way to create a foundation on which this new society can be born. This was his project, and still is his project, and this is why the United States was so important, and still so important for him.
Okay, is the purpose of the upcoming eclipse meditation to reestablish the United States as the New Atlantis? And how will this benefit the rest of the world?
Actually, one of the purposes of this meditation is to reactivate this archetype and then reactivate that plan again, so that I would say the most awakened people in the United States can start anchoring the light for the New Atlantis and to reconnect with that archetype and start building a civilization of light that was meant to be in the United States. And it was meant to be the role model for the whole world. That was the original purpose.
The role model. That's interesting. So what is Saint Germain's role for this now, both for the U.S. and for the planet?
Okay. What he's doing is he's reactivating the light grid around the planet. I would say there is a network of etheric currents which encompasses the planet, and maintaining that light grid and stabilizing the light grid can ensure the most possible positive timeline for the planet. And also, he is inspiring those who are ready for his inspiration to recreate that civilization of light, to rebuild that civilization of light again on the planet.
How would you best suggest we connect with Saint Germain to do this?
The first thing is for everybody to become more familiar of who he was and who he is, and to meditate upon his presence, call upon his presence, and he will respond.
Interesting, thank you. As we understand it, Saint Germain was also creating the new financial system, funding money in a special account called the Saint Germain Trust. And this money accumulated to $40 to $50 trillion, and that it will be released for the whole of humanity after the event that brings down the cabal. Can you tell us a little more about this? And also, is there any chance that any of this money could be released before that?
Okay. Saint Germain has created this trust in the 18th century, and this money has accumulated, of course, a lot of interest, and now it amounts to, at this moment, more than $50 trillion. And this money will be released when the new financial system is introduced, and this will be given to humanity for, I would say, as the initial kickstart fund for New Atlantis.
Okay, good. And so I'll ask you again, is there any chance that any of this could be released before the event?
It is extremely unlikely.
Okay, thank you. Wanted to get clarity about that. Let's discuss the second decisive time for the USA in 2024, which is the presidential election on November 5th. Why is this upcoming election also a significant time to chart the course for the United States, and what is most important for people to understand about this?
I would say that this is a moment of great potential for good, and also a great potential for darkness, depending on what timeline will be decided and what people will do about that situation. The dark forces have plans to divide the country more and more, and the light forces have plans to bring more unity and more inspiration at that moment. So it is not decided yet what will happen, but it'll be one of the key moments to decide the destiny of the United States.
Will the eclipse meditation, if we reach critical mass, will that have an impact on helping the situation between now and the election?
Of course, if the critical mass is reached, then the United States will start gravitating towards the most positive timeline.
Okay. Can you give us any further ideas of what we might expect here in the U.S. before, during, or after the election on November 5th?
It is a time of epical battle between the light and the dark. And this battle will intensify. There will be more and more polarization, but there are also quite important breakthroughs possible. The astrology for the United States is actually much better than expected, so it is not as bad as most media presented. It is actually much better, so there are many good things happening behind the scenes, and that energy can be used to hold the light for the most positive timeline, to visualize that, to hold the vision for a positive timeline and for the positive outcome of this experience.
Okay, very good. That's exactly what I want to talk about next, is the astrology of this time right now. So we've discussed before about the significance of Pluto's journey into and out of Aquarius during these times. Pluto has now moved back into Aquarius, which it only does approximately every 250 years. And when this occurs, it's generally a time of monumental change and transformation. So what is the significance of Pluto entering Aquarius now, especially since Pluto was in the same position in Aquarius as it was at the birth of the United States nearly 250 years ago?
Okay. One aspect of the Pluto in Aquarius archetype is the bringing of the new age, the bringing of the Age of Aquarius. It is a moment of spiritual renaissance. And in this particular cycle we are now in, the energy of Pluto in Aquarius brings first contact. It brings contact between the surface humanity and extraterrestrial civilizations, one way or the other. And as Pluto is entering Aquarius this year, it'll stay in Aquarius for 2 decades, and those 2 decades will be the time frame during which that contact needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. So Pluto, during the year, this year, 2024, Pluto makes a final brief return into Capricorn from September 1st to November 19th. And then, as you said, it turns back into Aquarius for the next 20 years. So when Pluto is in Capricorn, it also signifies change, but often where what is in the shadows comes to light. So what does this last period when Pluto goes back into Capricorn for a few months this year look like, and how to prepare for it? And by the way, it's interesting that the U.S. elections fall into this window of time. Will there be any impact from this, and if so, how?
Pluto in Capricorn brings transformation, or I would rather say destruction of the old controlling systems. Pluto in Capricorn in the last, I would say, about 2 decades brought into light a lot of corruption and a lot of anomaly that exists in the controlling system on the planet. And the period between September 1st and November 19th is a period when the last impulse for that destruction of the old, this awakening of what really exists in the controlling system, will come to humanity. And as the election is in that time frame, a lot of what was hidden before will come to light. A lot of negative aspects of the controlling system will be brought to light, and that is also a time of the greatest polarization. So that time is full of potential, and also a possibility for destruction. So we have to uphold the light and visualize the best possible outcome for that time frame.
Okay, thank you for that information. So there could potentially be a lot more disclosure coming out at that time. Let's speak again about Pluto in Aquarius. So in history, it's also been a time of rebellion, revolutions, and significant societal changes. I mean, it was after 248 years ago that the American Revolution occurred. Will any type of revolution be necessary to instill changes in the United States, and how likely is this to happen to any degree?
Okay. Pluto in Aquarius this time will transform the Earth's surface humanity as a whole. It'll not be limited only to the United States. So the societal change will happen everywhere, and I would say it will be beyond the scope of revolution as people understand it. It will be a complete transformation which will leave no stone unturned.
Okay, wow. So it is important for people to understand the mass infiltration of darkness that's taken place on the planet. And one of the most effective tactics used by darkness is to divide and polarize the people, as you've mentioned, by creating opportunities for them to fight amongst themselves, which distracts from what's really going on, which in the case of the United States is the dismantling of the republic itself. What can citizens do to address this?
Okay. This is in a way a tricky question, because most people forget what is really important here. Everybody is a human being. The dark forces have created an artificial divide between Democrats and Republicans on the mental plane, and they are putting the focus of the people on the mental plane. And people forget that there is a soul in every human being. And focusing on that human soul is far more important than any political label that anybody can have. And focusing on that, humanity will bring the necessary change on the surface of the planet.
Okay, good. So maybe just being more in touch with your soul and your heart and feeling more compassion for other people.
Yeah, you can put it that way.
Okay. Many people have been awakening to the reality of nefarious beings taking over all aspects of government as well as other areas of our life, not just here in the U.S., but also globally. And many people call it the Great Awakening, which happens on an emotional, spiritual, and intellectual level. Part of this will include releasing information about the cabal, about extraterrestrial life, and the release of greatly improved technology. So as more information gets disclosed, as more people awaken, and as you mentioned, potentially more chaos ensues, after April 8th, what should we focus on between now and the election?
The focus should be what kind of society you wish to create, what kind of society we would like to have a positive vision for the future.
Okay, so rather than focusing, being fear-based and focusing on what's wrong or what could potentially go wrong, hold a vision of the society and the life that you want to have.
Exactly, because many people are already aware of what's wrong. Of course, it is good to have that awareness, but we need to go beyond that at this point.
Okay. With this Great Awakening, people are doing their own research to become better informed about the truth of our reality, which is a good thing. But hopefully they're using their own discernment since there's also much disinformation out there. Can you tell us what role spirituality and self-reflection play in this process? And how would you recommend people better discern as well as grapple with some of the hard truths that will surface?
The key is to use common sense, combined with intuition and higher guidance. Because there is so much disinformation out there, it's very important to use common sense, to use a sane mind, and also to use your intuition and train it every day, and it will get better and more precise.
Okay, in spite of the Great Awakening, there unfortunately still are many people asleep, especially in the United States. How can we get these people to love America rather than work to destroy it? And are there enough awake people in this country to counteract the energy of the negative effects that the asleep ones are having?
Okay, you cannot awaken somebody who does not want to awaken. So if you would like to have a positive effect, spread the light to those who are willing to receive it. And unfortunately, there are not enough awake people now, but this can change in the future.
Okay, thank you. So regarding the day of the solar eclipse, there has been so much talk. It increases every day in the mainstream media as well as some alternative media where people are talking about potential disaster taking place and urging people to prepare for 1 to 2 weeks of supplies and that phones and internet may go out. Why is this? Is there a nefarious agenda at play, such as a biological attack to create another pandemic? Should people be concerned? Do we need to prepare for anything?
No. This has been overblown completely. During the eclipse, many people will travel to the zone of totality, and there will be a lot of people moving to other locations. So there will be extreme traffic congestion, which can lead to minor supply chain disruptions. And also, certain states are relying on solar electricity and it can create some power grid disruption on the day of the eclipse. Nothing serious, but there might be minor disruptions because simply there will be too many people doing the same thing at the same time. So nothing to worry about. It's just a practical concern of too many people migrating on that day into the zone of totality.
Okay, thank you for that. I feel like a lot of people will be relieved to hear that, so thank you. So we can't have a discussion about America without talking about Native Americans. There are dark and painful periods of American history that do need to be brought into the light and healed, particularly regarding those that took place with tribal and indigenous nations. And we do acknowledge that this has also happened globally. So from your perspective, what is the most important thing that we can do right now to address the current and past suffering that's been unleashed? Is there a message that you have for cultures like the Native Americans who have suffered, they've been genocided, they've had their land stolen?
At this moment, the most important thing would be for people to learn about the rich culture that those Native Americans have, legends, myths, that strong and rich culture, which has been almost forgotten because that is the strength lying behind all that. So much of this has been destroyed, but it can be revived, And this will be the power of the new regeneration. And from this, real forgiveness and real healing can happen.
Okay, great. I would think it would also be beneficial for Native Americans to really seek to go back to their roots and their deep spirituality. And I feel like that could also anchor a lot of positive energy into the United States. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
In the eclipse meditation, in addition to our intent being to restore the Constitution of the United States, we are also intending to usher in the new era of the Age of Aquarius. So you mentioned this earlier, but for those of people who don't know much about the Age of Aquarius, can you explain a little bit more about what it is? And we talked about visualizing the future and what we want. And could you explain more of what that looks like?
Okay, Age of Aquarius is, I would say, the new age that will come after the completion of the current one, and it means the rebirth of a new society that will be based on true spirituality, and I would say a much more harmonious human society. And this is something that we can visualize, and this is what we were born to create in this life.
Okay, good. And do we understand it correct that we have already started moving into the Age of Aquarius?
Yes, we are in the transition period right now.
Okay. Will it only fully really kind of blossom after the event?
Exactly.
Okay. Will restoring the U.S. Constitution move us closer to this? How do you see other nations responding if the U.S. is able to restore our own Constitution, especially if we're able to do this within a short window of time?
Okay, I think if that would happen, other nations would have much more respect for the United States.
Yeah, we could use a little more respect right now. And so restoring our U.S. Constitution, I assume it will move us further into the Age of Aquarius?
Yes, it's part of the same process.
Okay. And we discussed earlier the importance that Saint Germain has put on the United States. But can you explain any further, what is the intended role of the USA leading up to and during the event, the following Golden Age, and an overall planetary ascension? It seems like the importance of the United States is a big reason why there's such a focus on destroying the Republic right now. Is this true?
Actually, the great potential of the United States was fully blossoming in the 1980s and to a degree 1990s, when there was a big spiritual awakening in the United States. And then this awakening was heavily suppressed by the dark forces. And I would say the potential is still there, but it has not been fully utilized.
Okay, thank you. And as we near the end of this interview, I'd like to talk about goddess energy, especially as it relates to the United States. So first, let's discuss the Statue of Liberty. The statue is a figure of Libertas, the goddess of liberty and freedom. In her right hand, she holds a torch, and in her left, a tablet inscribed July 4th, 1776, the date of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. And the statue was given to the U.S. as a gift from France. Can you speak about the connection to France? You've talked a little bit earlier about that and the true significance of this iconic statue that sits in the New York harbor.
Okay, this statue was a gift of French Masonic lodges to the United States. But I would say here, I would stress the positive Masonic lodges. This statue is a very powerful anchor of the goddess Libertas. Libertas was a Roman goddess of liberty and freedom, and that energy is being anchored in the New York harbor, and this is, I would say, the entry point for that energy. And it is a very important positive anchor, which the dark forces tried to misuse, but they were not successful. So as long as that statue stands there, it'll keep anchoring the energy of liberty and freedom there.
Okay, good. Thank you. That was my next question. Has this statue ever anchored goddess energy in the U.S. and what the current status is of that? So,
Yes, it has been anchoring that energy for over 100 years, and it will keep doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And just to explain, goddess energy is the divine feminine, representing qualities of love, compassion, peace, and more. But we do know that this feminine energy has been suppressed for so long in our country, as well as all over the world. And we're at a point where that healing energy of the divine feminine is very, very much needed. So what is the role and importance of anchoring goddess energy in the United States at this time?
Okay, This is part of a global process because much more of that energy is needed worldwide. And since the focus of the planetary liberation processes is in the United States for this year, this is the focal point for that energy to be reactivated, especially during this time.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to take this opportunity to mention that a very powerful way to help anchor goddess energy is to get involved with the Sisterhood of the Rose. Everyone can find a list of groups that meet around the world on our website, sisterhoodoftheRose.network. And so, Cobra, during the recent Phoenix conference, you stated that the solar eclipse will activate the Goddess Equator, which in the United States runs almost parallel to the line of the upcoming eclipse. Can you explain to those who aren't aware what the Goddess Equator is, as well as the significance of these two paths being so close and so similar?
Okay. The Goddess Equator is the old equator that the Earth had in Atlantean times in the time of the old Atlantis before the polar shift. And along that equator, there were very powerful goddess temples, which anchored goddess energy at that time. And one part of that goddess equator runs through the United States almost parallel to the line of the upcoming eclipse. So those two lines will communicate with each other and interact with each other at the moment of the eclipse, and it'll be a very powerful energy dynamic which will bring super powerful energies through the United States.
That's really good to know that they will be kind of feeding each other. Is it a coincidence that these two paths are so similar?
Of course not. This is part of the, I would say, great design of the divine plan, part of the new Atlantis plan.
Love that. Thank you. And before we close, I would like to acknowledge the patriots out there who feel passionate about restoring the Constitution and who work hard to awaken the masses. We very much hope they will all join the eclipse meditation, because restoring the Constitution is one of the main goals of the meditation, and we really hope that they will share with their audiences. But as we know, the more people that participate, the more powerful the results will be. And I'd like to address that some patriots are not necessarily meditators. So, Cobra, how best can we reach them and inspire them to participate in the meditation? If they're not inclined to do the synchronized meditation, would it still be beneficial for them to visualize the freedom they want for the U.S. during the time of the meditation?
I think it'll be easier for many people to join the meditation if they become aware that many scientific studies have proved that mass meditations do have impact on society, and this might be a good motivation for those who otherwise would not join, to join this time and sacrifice 20 minutes of their time for this. If they do not want to follow the official meditation guideline, they can of course use their own visualization or their own way of doing it, although it'll not be as effective because we need to focus intent. Every participation is welcome and will be much appreciated.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you have any other recommendations and final words of inspiration for us?
Okay, at the moment of this interview, we have a little bit more than 2 weeks to go before the eclipse. I would invite everybody to share this with those who would be open, who would be interested, and to share the light and anchor the light in those 2 weeks, because we're approaching one of the key moments that can help us decide and create a better future. So thank you everybody, and victory of the light.
Yes, victory of the light. Thank you so much for this inspiration. We encourage people to check out your blog at 2012portal.blogspot.com, as well as the We Love Mass Meditation website at welovemassmeditation.com for further information and updates. I would like to thank the USA Eclipse Meditation team and the We Love Mass Meditation team for their support with this interview, and especially to you, Cobra, for doing this interview. We appreciate the information that you share and how you continue to hold the light for humanity. Thank you again.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Victory of the light.
Victory of the light.